No, the power went out. Babacar?
Stéphane?
Oui, Babacar, salut. Tu vas bien?
Allô? Oui, écoute, ça va bien, merci. Sauf qu'on a des ennuis techniques là.
Écoute, pas de problème. Tu es en...
Je t'entends là.
Parfait. Tu es en direct, on va commencer. So I want to welcome our long-awaited guest, Mr. Babacar Cissé, who is the resident and humanitarian coordinator in Sudan. As we mentioned yesterday, he just came back from a 2-day mission to assess the situation in refugee camps in southeastern Sudan, in the region bordering Tigray state of Ethiopia. We had hoped for a video connection, but I understand the power went out in his home in Khartoum, so he is joining us by phone. So, Babacar, let me give you the floor for a couple of opening remarks, and then we'll take some questions. Over to you.
Thank you, Stefan. Good morning, good afternoon to all of you. As Stefan said, we just visited the state of Kassala and Geradef, which are the two states where we had most of the refugees crossing from Ethiopia. This was a UN integrated mission that was composed of UNHCR representatives, UNHCR representatives, UNICEF, and WFP. These are the main agencies that are operating on the ground under the leadership of UNHCR. We visited 2 camps. The first one we visited was the one of Amdayet at the border with Ethiopia, which is very close to the border, to the river. That was a transit camp where we have approximately 20,000 refugees. 4,000 of them have been relocated to the relocation camp named Rakuba camp. I will come back to that. But this is the largest group that crossed the river that have been located for the time being in Amdayet. As I said, that was the day before yesterday. But just when we left this morning, I was just informed that today 1,896 crossed the border again, which make it, we have a total of 33,249 refugees that crossed the border. I may say that in our initial estimate, our planning figure was 20,000 refugees crossing the border. During the last week, which means basically there's an influx larger than what we expected, and that is quite challenging. But if I may come back to the purpose of this mission, it was not only to assess the situation on the ground, to identify the gaps on the ground, but also to engage with the local authorities. Basically, our partner there, the 2 governors of the 2 states, and other donors and partners that are involved in the process. We also engage with our colleagues on the ground to accelerate the finalization of the UN Intelligence Response Plan that will cover the next 6 months. Our initial planning figure was 100,000 people for 6 months, but now that figure has increased to 200,000 for the next 6 months. Recently, there was a kind of decrease in terms of the number of people crossing the border, but we believe that it was due to the fact that there was more control on the other side. But today, again, we had 1,896 that crossed the border, and yesterday it was 1,500, if I'm not mistaken. On the challenges that we are facing, there are many. One is that, as I said initially, our planning figure was 20,000 refugees. We have more than that today, and that's a change in terms of the support that is being provided to them. Some of the camps are overcrowded, and we need to find a way to provide the support that is needed in terms of shelter, in terms of food items, in terms of non-food items, in terms of, let's say, medical support to them, which is not always easy. The second issue that we discussed with the 2 governors is the need for urgent identification and of site that we need to prepare, the new site where we will be relocating the refugees, because for the time being, they were supposed to stay only 24 to 48 hours in the transit camp, but they need to, they are saying much more than that, basically because of the fact that we don't have enough camp for relocation. The one that was given to us was the one of Rakuba. And I may say that there again, the local communities have been very supportive, as well as the authorities themselves. The camp initially was supposed to accommodate 10,000 people, but when we landed yesterday to the camp, we were told that the local communities, as well as the authorities, were able to give us a few more land, which means basically we might be able to accommodate more than 10,000 refugees. For the time being, there are 4,414 refugees in this camp, but today we transported 1,400. I was just informed about the number arrived today in this camp. So this is one of the challenges. The second issue is the access to the area. We spent yesterday 6 hours from Kassala to the transit camp on the road. That's quite challenging, and even to transport the refugees to the camp in Umbrakuba, it takes at least 12 hours. So which basically it's a bit long. It's a long travel, and if you have to transport so many people, we cannot transport more than 1,500 per day. That's also a second challenge that we have to address, and maybe having more vehicles, more cars to transport these refugees. We raised this issue with the governor, two of them, in terms of the site that we need, so that we can prepare the land, do the planning, shelter, everything, so that we can transport these refugees. The other challenge that we will be facing is that there are 3 borders, official borders, but we understand that they are using some other borders. The day before yesterday, 6 of them crossed to Blue Nile. There were 600 of them crossed to the Blue Nile state. So they are using more border than anticipated, and that's the challenge. So we want to make sure that we will have not too many camps, because that won't be manageable. That will be a challenge for us. And I think that is something that we will be looking into. How to address all this issue? I may say that the government is quite willing to support. They were providing some food item just to complement what we were doing. But today, our colleagues from WFP just confirmed to us that they have food item for almost 60,000 refugees. And by next week, they might be able to provide food item for 100,000 refugees, which means basically, in terms of food item, the needs are covered for the next month. And yet, we need to be prepared for having more refugees if the tension intensify in Tigray region. We also discussed the possibility of using airlift cargo to Kassala directly. That will lessen the transit of all the goods and items that we are transporting, but it might be difficult. I would like really to insist on the fact that the local communities have been very supportive. Although they are very poor, and yet they were coming up and we're providing items such as food, water, and really, that was moving. The way that they were so accommodating, and even given their land to support these refugees. So that will also imply some kind of challenges, because they are poor, and we are providing support to the refugees. We might need to come up with some kind of community type of support, recovery type of activities, and we intend to talk to some development partners to see how we can complement the support that is being provided by UNHCR in particular, but also the other agencies that are involved in this operation. We had some very moving testimony from women that have not been able to have shower for 10 days. They had to flee without any stuff with them. Clothes, we name it. They just fled, leaving everything behind them, and that was quite challenging. That was quite challenging for them, and we are trying to see how we can cope with this kind of situation. It's not that easy, but the agencies that are operating on the ground are doing the level best to provide the support that they need, even having shower. But now we have some water now coming to to the refugee camp, that will be very helpful. So this is, in a nutshell, the challenges that we identify. We hope that our UN response plan will be finalized by the end of this weekend, and we will be starting discussing with our partners for the financing of the response plan from the UN family. Stefan, over to you.
Thank you very much, Babacar. The first question will go to James Bays from Al Jazeera.
Thank you very much for doing this for us. You've seen a very large number of refugees in a very short period of time. How worried are you if the conflict continues or intensifies that you will be unable to cope? And the second question, if I may, you've spoken to some of the refugees. What are they telling you about the current situation in Tigray?
Go ahead, Babacar.
Thank you. Let me start with the refugees. They are very much anxious because some of them, they just fled and leaving behind them their children, their daughters, their parents, and so on and so forth, because they weren't able to assemble and to live together. And they told us that, they had to flee in the forest. They worked for more than 2 days. When they arrived, they were just exhausted with nothing. So basically, it was quite moving, as I said, as they had to flee all of a sudden, because they said that, with the fighting, they cannot do otherwise, just to flee, leaving behind them some of their parents. So they are very much concerned about what might happen to their parents. So we need to find a way also with ICRC, with some other partners, to see if we can connect them with them or if they can get some information. But it was quite difficult for all of them, most of them, in fact, the way they left the Tigray region. When it comes to the challenge, you're right. I mean, this is our challenge, in fact, because the numbers are increasing. We might have more people. That's why we need to get prepared for that. As I said, in terms of food items, agency, UNHCR, UNICEF, WFP, they are doing their level best to increase their capacities and items that they need, food items, non-food items, the shelter, and so on and so forth. But that will be quite a challenge for all of us. And that's why we need to better coordinate our efforts with other partners. We were on the ground. There are many other partners that are involved in this process. They might not have our capacity, but at the same time, we need to reinforce this coordination. We also expect some support from the government. They have been very willing to support, and they did their level best in providing food items and providing security into the camp, but they might have to do more. So in a nutshell, in fact, that's why we need to expedite our response plan that is targeting 200,000 people. If we mobilize resources from the donor community, that will help us increase our footprint, but also our capacity to respond to the increase of refugees crossing the border.
Next question goes to Philippe. Sorry, thank you. Philippe Rater from AFP. Philippe?
Oui, bonjour Monsieur Cissé. Question en français pour changer si je peux. Question de notre bureau AFP à Khartoum qui aimerait bien d'ailleurs vous rencontrer. Comment loger tous ces réfugiés alors que les camps ne sont même pas construits? Merci.
C'est une bonne question. En fait, c'est le défi que nous avons en ce moment. Donc, c'est la raison pour laquelle, en fait, nous sommes allés hier dans le premier camp en fait, qui a été établi. Il y a les camps de transit, en fait, qu'on a voulu pérenniser en camp, mais apparemment, les autres ne sont pas très disposés à le faire parce qu'elles sont peu proches de la frontière, semble-t-il. Donc, le camp sur lequel nous misons beaucoup, c'est le camp de Rukaba, où nous avons donc environ 5000 et quelques réfugiés déjà sur place. Mais hier, encore une fois, ils étaient en train d'aider, on était en train de les aider à construire des shelters, donc des habitats, de renforcer donc, disons, l'approvisionnement en eau du camp, tout on a même pu amener un peu d'électricité dans le camp. Donc, on est en train de faire des efforts énormes en, tout cas, en matière de santé, en matière d'eau potable, en matière d'assainissement, avec le concours de différents partenaires pour faire face. Je vous ai dit, ils étaient 4414 hier matin, mais aujourd'hui, il y a plus de 1500 qui sont arrivés. Donc, c'est un grand défi, c'est un très grand défi sur le plan matériel, sur le plan donc, des équipements. L'autre défi, en fait, c'est l'acheminement de tous ces équipements. En fait, c'est des zones qui sont excentrées, qui sont isolées, et nous, on a mis 6 heures de temps pour y arriver, parfois c'est 12 heures de temps, et donc ça, c'est un défi, en fait, logistique énorme pour amener donc tous ces équipements qui sont nécessaires pour construire le camp. Mais je pense qu'en doublant les efforts, en doublant nos effectifs, on sera peut-être en mesure d'accroître les installations de manière à recevoir donc les réfugiés qui vont arriver donc graduellement dans ce camp. Mais il nous faut d'autres camps. Et c'est ça le défi. Il nous faut d'autres camps. Nous avons insisté auprès des autorités pour qu'on nous donne des camps nous permettant donc de les préparer de manière à pouvoir donc accueillir également des réfugiés dans ces camps-là.
Merci, Babacar. The question was, how do you build the camps? And maybe Babacar,
over to you. Sorry.
If you could just give a quick recap in English as well, because it was very interesting.
Say it again.
If you could just give a quick recap in English of the answer. Thank you.
Yeah, so basically the question was about the number of people that are coming in and how we will be coping with this kind of situation. I said it's quite a challenge for all of us because this camp is quite new. Yesterday again, when we arrived, we saw some refugees trying to build their shelter with our support, but they were very committed to doing the job themselves. But the challenge is that we have only one camp that is available for the time being. Luckily, we have some more land in the same camp, which means basically we can accommodate more than 10,000 people. That was the initial estimate. So that is good. But at the same time, bringing all the equipment, all the material that we need to build the shelter, the plastic sheeting, it's quite difficult because this camp is quite isolated. So that's a challenge. That is why we were saying to the two governors, they need to identify urgently some of the camps not far away from the border. Let's say 50 kilometers from the border, which is based on UNHCR principles, so that we can build some of the camps to accommodate a large influx of refugees. Let's hope that we will not have that many that will come at the same time, because that will be quite a challenge for all of us. And we are calling, if I may say, upon our partners also to help us on that. The government is quite willing, but with the limited capacities and resources, they might not be able to do that much. But that's why we are calling upon our partners to help us in terms of building this camp, in terms of supporting the program that will be put forward to cope with the challenges ahead of us.
Thank you. Toby from NHK. Toby, go ahead.
Very much, and thank you very much for the briefing. We appreciate it. I have the same question as Philippe, but a second question is, is it correct to say you're anticipating now the response plan 200,000 refugees? Is that right? That's the first question. And then my second question to you, sir, is can you give us an additional sense of what these people are saying, specifically the conditions of violence that they're fleeing? What have they experienced? If you could go into a little more detail about that, we'd appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Go ahead, Babacar.
In terms of 200,000 people, this is our new planning figure. Initially, it was 100,000 people, but now it has increased up to 200,000 refugees that might come during the next coming 6 months or year or so. So that is our new planning figure, basically, because of the increase of refugees coming in and the average of almost 2,500 per day. And we might have more people coming in because of the current tension that is prevailing on the ground. Now, when it comes to the refugees, in fact, the testimony that we are having from them, they are shocked, sometimes traumatized, because they said that, the fighting started all of a sudden. Nobody was expecting that. And they had to flee. And we did note that many of them were young men. And that was a bit surprising. And we discussed it, by the way. We told them, but how come? Because quite often we have more women than men, but I understand they said that we were targeted, so that's why we fled initially and we crossed the border. But it was very hard for them. They had to work in the bush, in the forest for days before being able to cross the border. So when they arrived, they were quite exhausted, so they needed some support in terms of, let's say, food items, even in terms of health support and so on and so But as I said, many of them were shocked, particularly the women and the young children. Because some of them, I mean, they face some situation. A woman told us, for example, my two family members were killed before me. I had to flee. So this kind of testimony was just moving, and it was very sad the way, I mean, what they live and how they have to flee their country all of a sudden, leaving everything behind them, losing everything. We met one medical doctor who's helping us in the Rabuka camp. I mean, he said that I'm a medical doctor, but I had to flee. My family is not with me, and I'm helping here, which was something that we really appreciated. We had somebody work in the banking system who said, I lost everything. The lady said, even to flee, I had to sell my cell phone. I sold everything to be able to leave. And I worked for 2 days before coming here. It was very sad. I mean, the kind of testimony we hear from them, and very moving, as I said. But many of them also, they hope to return. In the transit camp, we've got many of them who might not even want to go to the resettlement camp, because in their mind,
Hello? Babacar? Have we lost him? He's back on, or he's not there?
Hello.
You're back on.
Oh.
Okay. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Over to you.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I do.
Thank you. Okay.
For the connection.
We'll go to Margaret Bashir, Voice of America. Maggie?
Thank you. Thank you, Babacar, for this briefing and for all your work you're doing. I have a few questions. Building on what you just said about the men who said they were targeted, could you just clarify, were they targeted to fight, or what were they, like, were they recruiting them, or what exactly were they targeted for? And can you talk about how you're transporting these people? Are you moving the 1,500 a day on buses? And that raises issues about COVID. Is it, a problem in that area? Are you trying to take precautions to prevent some sort of COVID outbreak? Are you giving people face coverings? Are you testing people? That sort of a thing. And if you could just give us some details on that. Thank you.
Yes, on the first question, in fact, we will be, as I said, we'll be surprised there were more men than women, which is not always the case, when we have this kind of situation. So that's why we asked the question to them. How come we have more men than women? They said that we were young and we were targeted in the sense that, they could have been fighters. That's what they said. But, I mean, they were consistent, because we checked in several camps, they told us the same story. But that's what they told us. Targeted in which sense? Because they could have joined the rebellion or not. They were not quite specific on that. But they told us that they were the first one to flee since they were young men. We might probe them more, but that they stick to that story. But they were consistent in different camps. When it comes to the COVID situation, we asked them. In fact, yesterday, in fact, and the day before yesterday, in the two camps, we asked them on gender-based violence, but there were no gender-based violence, which was important for us. Second, we were told that 12 women delivered in the camp. One woman lost her child because she was trying to reach the camp, but she lost her child in between because, she wasn't able to be transported by car. And that was the first case that we had, unfortunately. So UNHCR was able to bring yesterday with us more than many boxes of masks that will be distributed today to the refugees. But I may say that we were wearing masks, but they were not. Basically, they didn't have masks. But I think that now that UNHCR was able to bring many boxes of masks, they will be distributed to all the camps where we have refugees. But no case was reported per se because we are not doing the test. They don't have the capacity to test. So we are trying to see with the government, but also with the medical center that we are trying to rehabilitate in Rukaba camp if we can do this kind of test. But it's not yet happening. Now, in terms of transporting the refugees, as I was saying earlier on, where UNHCR was rented so many buses, in fact, that they are being transported by bus. But as I said, it takes 12 hours to move from Amdayat transit camp to the Rukaba camp where they will be resettled. So 12 hours make it a bit difficult. We have more than 50 buses that are doing the transportation, and UNHCR intend to increase the number of buses to be able to transport the refugees from the transit camp to the resettlement camp.
Great.
Over to you.
Thank you very much. Babacar, no, we have to let you go. I want to thank you so much for taking the time. And next time you go back down, we hope to talk to you from there. So thank you again, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Bye bye.
And keep in touch too. Bye.
Bye.
Back now. Bye.